Hi, my name is Nimrod, and I'm going to Europe to make it anti-natalist. Well, probably not, but I am going to Europe, and I am going to talk to people about anti-natalism. They will decide, hopefully for the best.
Yeah, sorry about that. Hi everyone. About 10 months ago, I started doing street anti-natalism activism in an attempt to establish an anti-natalist movement in Israel. I had many concerns for the obvious reasons when it comes to such a topic, and also due to the fact that Israel is not the ideal place, not the place I would choose to start if I could choose. But here is where I was unfortunate enough to be born in, and the familiarity with the culture and society and the fact that Hebrew is my native language made me decide to start here anyway. However, to my surprise, it's going better than I thought. And that is despite that, as you probably know, it was very complicated to do any kind of activism in Israel in the past year.
A peace protest to cease fire in Israel. It's a normal evening in Israel in more than a year now. Yeah, bring down the government. Yeah, I know. Bringing down the government won't solve problems. Only anti-natalism will. But we still really need to bring down the government here.
This experience made me believe and hope that if in a place like Israel there is room for street activism on such an issue, even though it's not the ideal place to spread messages about reproduction, there's certainly potential for anti-natalism activism in many areas of Europe. That's why I decided to go on a journey to try and promote anti-natalism activism throughout Europe. The journey will start on the 15th of April and will include more than 30 cities in 45 days. The goal of this journey is to try and initiate grassroots activism in Europe. So obviously the best thing I'm hoping for is that people would simply join me to the outreach events. This is literally the whole point of the journey, to try and help initiating some street activism, people spreading anti-natalism all across the continent on a regular basis. If you want to help but you are embarrassed or feel uneasy to speak with people about such an issue on the street in an outreach event, my advice is the same advice that I gave to people in Israel who were interested in joining me to the outreach events, and that is to come along, to kind of stand aside, at least at first, to listen and try to figure out how you feel about talking to people about such an issue on the street. Everyone who have joined me in the outreach events in Israel at some point felt comfortable enough to talk to people, and at some point after starting to talk to people, they felt it came quite natural to them. So there is no reason why this won't be your case as well. So please try it. Please come and join me. And you can really help even if you really don't want to talk to people, which I get. For example, by filming some of the conversations. I'm planning to take a tripod and a remote control to operate the phone so I can film some of the conversations once they're starting. But obviously, there is no substitute for someone standing and filming with a camera or a phone some of the conversations. I'm sure that we'll get much better filming of the conversations if someone will do it. That would be much more efficient. And it can also be a much more efficient way for you to kind of test if you want to talk to people about procreation on the street in an outreach event by starting behind the camera and trying to figure out if you want to stand, so to speak, in front of the camera. So another reason to come to the outreach events. Another excellent way for locals to help, as those who know the cities the best, even without coming to the outreach events themselves, is directing me to the best locations you think this kind of activity could be performed. My intuition goes for university campuses in the mornings and afternoons, and squares and entertainment areas where people hang out in the evenings. But tips from locals would be the best because you know your cities and I don't. So please feel free to contact me or comment to this video. That will be very helpful. Another way to help, if you can, is support. So far, the expenses of my activities in Israel have been quite low. It mostly required some office equipment, such as brushes and paints and markers and stuff like that to make the signs. and some price of travel to move to the location of the events. But the case of the journey is very, very different, obviously. It's a 45 days journey, which includes more than 30 cities. So despite that I will be sleeping in the cheapest hotels I could find and that my bar is very low and in terms of daily expenses, and food and stuff like that, and that I will be traveling by bus and by buses and trains only, still the expenses are very, very high. So in the case of the journey, I do have to ask anyone who supports this cause, who supports the idea of this journey, to contribute something. So I did place a donation button in the website. So if you can, please contribute something to the cause. Speaking of support, obviously the best thing you can do if you want to help is join me to the outreach events. This is literally the whole point of the journey. But if you can't for some reason, because you don't want to be open with your worldview at this particular time, because it doesn't work out your schedule, whatever reason you have, and you still want to help, and you can't help financially, because whatever reason you have, you can still be very, very helpful if you host me for the night. Not only that this will cut expenses quite significantly, it will be very, very nice to spend an evening instead of in a hostel with a like-minded person. So for me, it's a win-win. So I would really appreciate anyone who can just host me for a night on your couch and feed me. In the details of this video, you can find the planned journey routes. And I also put a link to a WhatsApp group dedicated to the journey where you can make suggestions on locations, give tips on where I can find cheap vegan food, where I will be able to update on locations in real time, and of course, and most importantly, where we can schedule in any of the cities where to meet if you want to join the outreach events themselves. Well, that's it for now. Thank you for listening, and I really look forward to hearing from you, and hopefully meet you in person. Hey crew, do we have it? Just kidding. I'm all alone here.